We're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Real Estate, hosted by yours truly. My name is Ray, and I am a real estate agent, a bearded man of real estate agent, if you will. And this is episode 315, broadcast live Wednesday, April 30th, 2023. We have a lot of economic news to cover today. We have some industry tea that we're going to be covering today. We have the Compass lawsuit, which we called. If you're a fan of the show, if you watch the show, you know that as soon as this happened and the Northwest MLS kicked him out, I was like, that's going to be a lawsuit. And sure enough, that's where we are. We're going to go over that. We're going to read the actual complaint. We're going to talk about hate speech making a comeback in the NAR. Is it time to get your hate on, everybody? Is that going to be okay? We're going to talk about why and what's happening in the legislature in Texas that could impact the NAR hate rule. And we'll talk about if that's good or bad. It's kind of a weird conversation, but hang in there with me. We also have a ton of economic news to cover today, too. And it's almost like you're in a tale of two cities. We're first going to go over everything negative, and then we're going to cover everything positive, and then you're going to decide, how's the economy actually doing? What's actually happening? So we do have a ton to cover today. Thanks for joining me, everyone. If you're joining me on YouTube, you can comment. I could display your comment just like Olivier over there. He said, party time. And you can also comment on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch. Where else are we live over there? There's another one. If you're on Instagram, you can comment, and I can give you a shout out just by saying your username. And if you're in Clubhouse, we're broadcasting live there, and you can actually add your voice to the show. Olivier said it's so much more relaxed when Matt isn't around. What's it worth appraisal? Scap said there will be a lot of hate speech come Friday. Golf with Matt LaMarche. Is he going to be hating on you, or are you going to be hating on him because he's actually hitting well? Which one's going to happen, Scap? That's what we all want to know. All right, if you
probably a little bit of each.
A little bit of each, good. We're going to dive in first to Compass and what's going on with Compass. Just to bring you up to speed very quickly, I'm not going to do the full background because we've already done it once this month. But Clear Cooperation has been making the rounds. Everyone's supporting it or against it. The NAR adjusted the rules to allow explicitly for office exclusive, which they've always done. They've always allowed for office exclusives. There's been no change there. But now there's this other marketing setting you can have on there where you can put a property on the MLS, but not let it go to any of the third-party searches. And it is a delayed marketing tactic, if you will. Well, when that happened, it kind of, I guess, solidified in the mind of a lot of brokerages that NAR was not going to be doing anything about office exclusives. And so several of them launched their private listing networks. When they did, Compass loudly announced it and started offering it all over the country. And there's one area/state that doesn't allow office exclusives. And that is the, let me get it right, Washington-based Northwest MLS. The Washington-based Northwest MLS does not allow for office exclusives. In my backstory of Clear Cooperation, one of the things that I mentioned is that the Clear Cooperation policy allows for office exclusives. It even carves out an exception for it. It creates the lane for office exclusives to exist. So if you don't want office exclusives and you're saying like, well, this is why I support Clear Cooperation, you're wrong, because Clear Cooperation allows for office exclusives. So if you don't want office exclusives, you have to do what Northwest MLS has done and say, we're going to ban office exclusives. And if you use them, we're going to kick you out of the MLS. So enter Compass. Compass, loudly advertising their office exclusives, Friday filed a suit against Washington-based Northwest MLS, calling the multiple listing service a monopolist, while sweeping the Seattle area's leading brokerages into the rapidly escalating private listings drama. The 39-page suit, which we will look at in just a second, in federal court, claims that MLS, serving 2,500 member offices in Washington and Oregon, has no meaningful competitors, and that its broker-owned multiple listing service in Seattle area brokerage owners with controlling stakes have an interest in limiting competition from new entrants. We'll get into some of the quotes of the actual complaint in just a second. Its decisions are made by agreement among competitors. Its board of directors comprised of competitors, with directors being affiliated with the long-standing traditional real estate companies. It mentioned in the complaint several times traditional real estate companies. The Jacoby, let's see, who's Jacoby? All right, Windermere Real Estate co-president O.B. Jacoby. That is a cool name. Coming from someone with the name of Ray Ellen, O.B. Jacoby is rad. So O.B. Jacoby said, I mean, it sounds like you're a Jedi, doesn't it? O.B. Jacoby said in a statement on Friday that he was confused by Compass's decision to mention Windermere Real Estate Services Company in the suit, explaining that as a franchisor, not a brokerage, it is not a member of the NWMLS. Jacoby also insisted that Windermere Real Estate Services Company itself does not hold 6 board seats, but thank the individuals from Windermere franchise offices and other brokerage firms who generously volunteer for the NWMLS board. And then he says, we vehemently disagree with Compass's stance, and the actions of the NWMLS are anti-client, Jacoby said in the statement. On the contrary, we continue to reiterate our position that we would truly be that what would truly be anti-client is a lack of transparency brought on by a blanket policy that encourages private listings, creating what amounts to a secretive network that only is beneficial to a privileged few, and the Wall Street driven brokerage looking to double side sales for the benefit of their stock price, which is 100% legal and allotted by clear cooperation. I added that last part. That wasn't in the article. Let's see, who else responded? A spokesperson for Northwest MLS did not immediately respond to Inman. Okay, I think that's all the responses that they have so far, it looks like. All right, so let's look at the complaint so that we know what we're looking at here. So I'm going to remove that. I can do a multiple screen share now? No, I can't. All right. And hang in there. Window, bam. So I went through, and the highlights you see are my own. So these are highlights that I made as I read through it, just kind of things that caught my attention or were interesting to me. This is the actual complaint from Compass Inc. and Compass Washington LLC versus the Northwest Multiple Listing Service. Number one, NWL. I'm not going to read everything. I'm just going to tell you the stuff I highlighted for the audio listeners who can't see what I'm reading here. One, NWMLS is a monopolist and a combination of competing real estate brokers. Number two, NWMLS has successfully prevented any meaningful threat to itself and its owner brokerages by adopting and enforcing a series of rules designed to force anyone wishing to buy or sell a home in the Seattle area with help of a real estate professional to do so on its platform. Now, this is starting to sound pretty familiar, isn't it? Sitzer Burnett, Morrill, any of those lawsuits talking about forcing people to use real estate agents? Unless stopped, MLS will continue engaging in anti-competitive and torturous conduct that has and is and will harm homeowners, Compass, and Compass's brokers in the Seattle area by depriving homeowners of choice, competition, strong reasons to use Compass broker. Number three, Compass is an innovative real estate brokerage. Now it kind of starts to go into like Compass's 3-phase price discovery and marketing strategy. Number four, homeowners demand these services. I thought this was an interesting statistic. In the first quarter of 2025, 48.2% of homeowners who listed their home with Compass outside of Washington State started their listing using the Compass three-phased price discovery and marketing strategy. And we'll get into what those three-phased price discovery and marketing strategy is in just a second. There's actually an example of it in the complaint. Okay. Homeowners are choosing to list this way because of Compass's three-phase price discovery, value and risk reduction that these offerings give them. Even if they hire an experienced real estate broker with a homeowner, when a homeowner immediately places their property on the multiple listing service without the opportunity to test the market as an office exclusive, and here are the risks they say. This is what they say. If you put your home on the market with the average agent, here's what you're doing. You're taking a gigantic risk that the property is incorrectly priced, too high or too low or both, of which hurt the seller. You forego feedback that would otherwise inform your marketing strategy, staging, renovations, cosmetic repair, and increase buyer demand in their home sale price. C, they're forced to launch a broad public marketing campaign that creates negative indicators, such as days on market, public price drops, which impose considerable costs on the seller if the property is not perfectly priced and positioned. And then it does say, while an expert at Compass could do this, it's still a better way to do the three-phase strategy. Number 7, Compass's private exclusives use a time-honored industry practice improved with new innovations using Compass technology. So they're basically saying, look, office exclusives have always been around. We're just adding tech to it. It's an option that's been around for homeowners for decades in every state except Washington, where the NWMLS and its co-conspirators have blocked this type of competition. Let's see. 8, it talks about pre-marketing providing tangible benefits. 9, however, Compass's aggressive competition, innovative offerings, and consumer-facing business, including the three-phase price discovery, marketing strategy, can be unpopular with competing real estate brokers because these innovations bring fresh competition and options that attract consumers from traditional real estate brokerages. Basically, Compass's client offerings disrupt traditional real estate brokers from being able to continue business as usual. Now, I thought this was an interesting phrase in there because what Compass's complaint is, the rules that you're imposing on Compass don't allow us to operate our business in the way we want to run it and the way we see is best for the client. But then as part of the complaint, Compass says, Compass's client offerings disrupt the traditional real estate brokerages from being able to continue business as usual. So basically, they could turn around and say, well, you doing this is not allowing us to offer the services to our clients and operate as we normally would operate in what we think is best for the client. So it's an interesting phrase that I don't think they can really harp on that, because if they do, it could just be easily flipped. Let's see. Number 10, that's in Seattle area. NWMLS, Windermere, and other traditional real estate brokerages who own and control NWMLS first agreed to adopt and enforce NWMLS rules that prevent office exclusives. Now, this is what the Windermere guy was saying. He was like, hey, man, we're just a franchisee. Those are volunteers on the board. We don't really have anything to do with them. Okay. Then NWMLS and its co-conspirators eliminated another one of its long-standing rules, which only Compass was using to allow Compass homeowners to use office exclusives. So this is the part where I think they have a strong case. If there was a situation where they just had a long-standing rule, no office exclusive guys, and Compass started doing office exclusives, and they're like, man, we've had this rule forever. You know this rule. You can't do that. So you're out. Or, here's some warnings. If you don't, change what you're doing by these warnings, then you're out. If that was what NWMLS did, I really don't think there's a case here. I don't think there's a lawsuit other than maybe Compass saying, hey, the national board has said that we should do this. If you're part of the national board, then you should be able to do this too. So that would be, what's that, Matt LaMarche on Instagram? Hey. That would be where I would say maybe Compass doesn't have a case. However, that's not exactly what happened. NWMLS next chose to ignore its own third long-standing rule Compass was using to give homeowners the choice. So here's what happened. NWMLS Rule 2. This is the thing that doesn't allow the office exclusives. Compass went to them and said, hey, change this. Every state in the country allows office exclusives. You don't allow office exclusives. The National Association of Realtors has said this is okay. Change this rule. And after months of going back and forth, on February 28th this year, the NWMLS finally responded and refused. So it said, we're not going to change the rule. So Compass said, all right, well, let's look in the rules and see if there's another way that we could do this, because we're doing it everywhere in the nation. So if we're doing it everywhere in the nation, surely there's a way that we could do that here. NWMLS Rule 4, Compass went back to the drawing board and found a solution within the existing MLS rules. Compass offered its 3-phase price discovery and marketing strategy in the Seattle area to sellers who chose a particular type of listing agreement known as a non-exclusive agreement. I believe this would be a net listing. Isn't that what it is? A net or an open listing? Is it a net listing or an open listing?
It's not. It would be more of an open listing, because a net listing says that you're getting.
Oh yeah,
X
that's just a certain amount of money.
Whatever you get. Yeah.
Right. So the open.
So it would be an
open
open listing.
Right. So an open listing, anybody can go list this property. So it's not exclusive to Compass. So under the MLS rules, Rule 4, these types of listings cannot be accepted by the NWMLS, and thus are not subject to MLS's one-size-fits-all rules regarding the marketing of the listing. So basically they said, all right, we have found a non-exclusive listing agreement. We can sign people up on that. The NWMLS does not allow us to put the non-exclusive listing agreements into the MLSs. So it is not now under the rules of the MLS, because the MLS rules explicitly prohibit those from being entered. So we can do the office exclusive with the non-exclusive listing agreement. And then later they could sign an exclusive, I guess. It doesn't really say that part, but so that seems like that would work. Then the NWMLS, this is the part where I think they have a case. 1 week later, the NWMLS and its co-conspirators responded by passing a traditional rule-making procedure to change the decades-long-standing Rule 4 and requiring properties listed with a non-exclusive agreement to now also be submitted to NWMLS and subject to all NWMLS rules. So Compass said, well, we'll just use the non-exclusive agreement since you guys don't want to do anything with that, and we can do it. The NWMLS was like, nah, we're changing that rule because you're using it to do something we don't want you to do. We're changing the rule. This is where I'm like, NWMLS Rule 6. After the second blocking, Compass again looked at NWMLS existing rules for a solution. According to Rule 6, properties would not be accepted by NWMLS if the home seller reserved the discretion whether to pay a commission to the buyer real estate broker. Compass offered this option to homeowners in the Seattle area. Within days, the NWMLS responded to its renewed competitive threat to its monopoly by claiming that Compass was not in compliance with the NWMLS rules. So basically, all this commission infighting that has happened. Now a lot of the MLSs say, well, you can input your property into the MLS, but you don't have to offer a seller commission. Well, it sounds like the NWMLS is old school and says that if you don't, if the seller reserves discretion on whether to pay a commission to a buyer real estate broker, then they would not be accepted into the NWMLS. So it is sounding more and more like the NWMLS is like a super old school brokerage that is not with the times. Because basically they would have forced you to offer buyer agent compensation in order for the property to be listed in the NWMLS. So Compass offered this option to its homeowners in the Seattle area. Within days, MLS responded with renewed competitive threat to its monopoly by claiming they were not in compliance. On April 15th, what is this, like 15 days after the February 28th resolution? So all this has happened very quickly. Yeah. When they refused to change the rule about the office exclusive, February 28th, 2025, all of this stuff started happening very, very quickly. So a month and 15 days later, in April, without warning or due process, NWMLS cut off Compass's access to the listing data feed, harming all Compass clients, Compass and its brokers and its homeowners by forcing them to choose between marketing their properties publicly before they were ready and no longer getting the associated benefits from the pre-marketing and price discovery or not listing them at all.
That will get their attention.
It sure did. It got some paperwork sent to them. So it goes on to I'm going to kind of skip through a lot of this other stuff because it's just kind of general, like, and this hurt us. It's all obvious to those of us that are in the business what came next. Number 16 was interesting though, because it says through this, it's anti-competitive and torturous conduct, NWMLS is hurting consumers by taking away critical freedom, decreasing innovation, quashing competition, and further entrenching NWMLS's monopoly and the traditional real estate brokerage's collective power in the Seattle area. So that's how it's hurting consumers. Number 17 says, and again, these are summarized. Number 17 says, moreover, NWMLS has hurt Compass and its real estate brokers by eliminating an option that homeowners like, blocking competition from Compass, and curtailing their ability to win business, and requiring Compass and its brokers ignore the instructions from homeowners on how to sell the properties. Let's see. They're talking about how they tried to justify the response. It gets into the parties and who the parties are, defendants and plaintiffs and all that jazz. This was number 26 says, and I didn't highlight this. I should highlight this part too. It lists the directors. NWMLS is owned and controlled by competing real estate brokerages in the Seattle area, and its decisions are made by a board of directors. Of the 15 current directors, most are affiliated with long-standing traditional real estate companies in the Seattle area, and then it names them. Then it talks about the jurisdiction and venue and the facts. So the facts are, so in a complaint at the bottom, usually towards the bottom, are just fact after fact after fact after fact that the case is built on. So, it's got stuff like most homeowners engage in the services of a real estate broker to sell their home. It's all that jazz. So the facts that I think that were most pertinent were the office exclusive facts section, starting on line 30, and it's not line 37, but it's note 37. It says, office exclusives are listings to sell a home where quote, the seller refuses to permit the listing to be disseminated by the multiple listing service. For over 50 years, office exclusives have been a critical piece of the freedom that homeowners have in deciding to market their property. In fact, it's so important that the NAR protected office exclusives in its antitrust policy issued in 1971, following a resolution of an investigation initiated by the US DOJ. In the most recent versions of its antitrust policy, along with prohibitions against price fixing, NAR instructs multiple listing services that follow its rules, and they, quote, shall not prohibit or discourage participants from taking office exclusive listings. That's interesting. I actually didn't know how long-standing office exclusives were. I have been against office exclusives if the purpose of clear cooperation was to end double ending to the deals. I'm not necessarily against office exclusives. I'm against them if you're trying to say use clear cooperation because that's the fix. It's not the fix because you allow for office exclusives, and that's always been my problem. But I guess they can't stop office exclusives because it's been so entrenched, and they've actually put out so much for office exclusives. So office exclusives have long been important to sellers. They can fine-tune the listings. They provide sellers with the benefit of testing different aspects of their listing, including asking price, pictures, home specifications, getting feedback. The benefit, I have a office exclusive on my own team, right? And the benefit is, of course, my team gets to see these properties first. I just sent them a list of lots right before the show. I was like, hey guys, here's some lots that we have and a builder that's going to build them. And, here's this information that's not public yet. My team has the office exclusive. And the reason is the sign is being printed. So it gives you time to get all the marketing stuff together while also getting feedback, questions, early questions that they have, so that I can even alter how it's marketed to be more clear. So there is some benefit to office exclusives. Okay. They do give an example. They're like, oh, they could test the price. They may be $20,000 overpriced, or they could be $20,000 underpriced, and we could increase it. I think probably the number of people that are increasing their prices probably low. This is what Compass lists on their website is the benefits of the office exclusives and pre-marketing your home. They call it the Compass Private Exclusive. This is a study that they say in fact, a marketing plan that includes office exclusives often provides pecuniary benefits to homeowners. Compass found in a recent study. And this says, before going active on the MLS, were associated with an average 2.9% higher close price compared to those that were not pre-marketed. Now, I do have a bit of a problem with this. I would like to know like general price ranges, if they were in the same area, etc. Because I could say that we sell, my team sells homes 24% higher than the average agent. That's a true stat. And you're going to hear that stat and you're going to be like, whoa. Yeah, so if you list with us, does that mean that you can make 24% more than if you list with another agent? I mean, in some cases, but in most cases, it just means that we have a higher starting price. So it could be that the private exclusives are in general a higher list price to start with too. So I don't know. Homes with pre-marketing received an accepted offer 20% faster, 8 days sooner once active on the MLS. I could see that. Sam Dane 0001 says, can you save this live? Yeah, better than that, Sam. I can put it on YouTube for you. If you search This Week in Real Estate on YouTube, then you'll see it. What's up, Lindsay Loves? All right. Not surprisingly, homeowners are quite interested in Compass's private exclusives. Let's see, Compass innovates. All right, let's go down. I think, is that all I've highlighted? Oh, no. So these are the 3 phases. If you guys are curious, phase 1, Compass private exclusive, phase 2, coming soon, and phase 3, go live on all platforms. They outline these 3 phases here. I don't know if this is internal, but now it's in the complaint. So there you go, guys. If you want to know about it, I'll get into why we're going through this bit by bit in just a second. And I think that may be all. No, I've got a couple more highlights here. Oh, yeah. All right. So we've already kind of talked about how the NWMLS is changing long-standing rules to basically target Compass. And that's why I think Compass has a case here. But check this out. After the NWMLS took an unjustified, unprecedented step of blocking every Compass agent from receiving the data feed. So the NWMLS shuts off the data. All the Compass agents now don't have IDX. They don't have a data feed at all. They can't get into the MLS. A Coldwell Banker real estate managing broker took advantage of the existential threat represented to Compass brokers' livelihoods, sending an email to Compass's brokers saying, at Coldwell Banker, Bain, we're fully in compliance with the NWMLS rules. Our IDX listing data feed is live, accurate, and working exactly as it should. No dramas, no disruption. Just stable, trusted platform to run your business on. The solicitation continued. What if the MLS takes further action? What if the situation escalates? If these competing real estate brokers are successful in using the NWMLS conduct to steal Compass's brokers and clients, then the innovative competition Compass brings to the real estate brokers in Seattle areas at risk. Not only that, I skipped a little part that I highlighted here for the surprise. Another Coldwell Banker real estate broker is the chairperson of the NWMLS rules and disciplinary committees. This is all, I mean, it's got the feels of all kinds of shade. So imagine this, guys. Imagine your board shuts down Matt LaMarche's data feed. And they say, Matt, your England Volkers is no longer compliant because we changed this rule to make you not compliant. Not only that, one of the companies that one of the board members making the decision is with sends an email to all of Matt's agents saying, hey guys, you'll just lose your data feed. We still got ours. This is like the culmination of the complaint. I don't see how a judge can see this and say, not only do you guys have a monopoly here and this is anti-competitive behavior, but you're acting on hurting this particular company and changing the rules to hurt this particular company.
Ray, how else are you supposed to stop my incredible growth?
I mean, we've all tried spike strips on the, but somehow those Porsche tires are strong, dude.
That's right. They're trying to take the wheels off the car is what they're doing.
That's right.
Yeah, I don't. There's been so many contradictions recently between some of these other brokerages, but even at NAR, they're like, this is how we got here to begin with, right? Like, I don't know that everyone. I mean, I've got to believe some of the heads and executives of these companies are going, wait a minute now. This sounds familiar. Was it less than a year that we were going through all of this? Like, I don't know. It's just, I've stopped reading all of these articles now because I'm just like, I don't understand. Make it make sense. Someone smarter than me, someone with one more light bulb on the chandelier.
I mean, that's why I'm here, Matt. That's exactly why I'm here.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I got you. No,
I mean, less than a year ago, there were positive. One could argue that there were positive changes for the agent community and for the consumer. This all, and the last move by the Coldwell Banker manager or whoever they were, just really emphasizes the fact that this is so far from consumer or agent-centric behavior that it's turning into a situation that it's ultimately going to do great harm to not only the agents that are the rainmakers for the brokers, but the consumers. I mean, how about being one of those Compass listings at NWMLS or whatever they are? Yeah. All of a sudden you're just erased. I mean, it's more maddening than the settlement statement was altogether.
If I was one of those sellers, I would totally sue. I mean, I would sue the next day. Sue. But
that's a shame. That's where we are right now, and it's so against everything that the agents are out there trying to do for consumers.
I would sue the NWMLS for being monopoly. I would go after them. I would reignite the commission lawsuit in Washington, saying not only that, we're forced to pay because you're making us put in buyer compensation into the MLS if we don't want to do that. And I would reignite the now it's precedent. So if I was a seller in Washington listed with Compass, I would be seeing all kinds of dollar signs. And now the NWMLS can say, well, this is Compass's fault. They broke the rule, but they would have to bring in Compass as a third party to the suit. And my understanding would be. So it would be a huge mess. And I think it's going to be a huge mess unless they reverse these decisions. And this might be enough paperwork to get them there. There's a couple other things that I highlighted: market share and market power.
Well, did you know that Catchmark just bought a penthouse in Seattle?
He needs to list that sucker.
Yeah, and his DocuSign is going nuts right now.
Market share and market power. In all relevant markets, so there's certain things that you have to prove in monopoly. There's got to be a relevant market. There's got to be a relevant like replacement option. And so they take issue with those, but they're using words by the beloved DOJ. In all relevant markets, NWMLS is a monopolist with almost 100% market share. As the U.S. Department of Justice has stated, by virtue of an industry-wide participation and control over a critically important input, the MLS, a joint venture of competing real estate brokers, has market power in almost every relevant market. It goes on to say from the DOJ, as the primary source of information about homes currently for sale and the prices at which other comparable homes have been sold, the MLS is an extraordinarily important resource for sellers, buyers, and brokers. MLSs are so important to the operation of real estate markets that as a practical matter, any broker who wishes to compete effectively in a market must participate in the local MLS. So they are citing the DOJ as a reason why the NWMLS is a monopolist in the area. It then goes into the stats of the local NWMLS board or NWMLS, and then the barriers to entry. Barriers to entry in the relevant markets are high. It goes on to say, what's the other one? Anti-competitive effects. So NWMLS and its co-conspirators' adoption and enforcement of Rule 2, modification of Rule 4, and the decision to ignore Rule 6 and boycott Compass by cutting off its access to its listings and database are anti-competitive. Antitrust injury. NWMLS anti-competitive and torturous conduct has harmed and continues to harm competition by stifling competition. Homeowners in Seattle have suffered. Compass has suffered. Injury to Compass and its real estate brokers was direct, foreseeable, and intended results of the NWMLS conduct. It's basically saying they are hurting us on purpose. These injuries to homeowners in Compass and real estate brokers are the direct result of NWMLS's anti-competitive. I don't see how you can. I mean, of course, the complaint makes a complaint against them, so we're not seeing the other side. But in reading this, like, you can't say that they're not targeting Compass. There are no pro-competitive justifications for NWMLS's anti-competitive conduct. Yeah, I mean, I guess, all right, let's think about that. The only pro-competitive thing that they could say is you're restricting properties from other buyers. But if you say that, they're going to say this. In fact, multiple listing services across the country have allowed office exclusive for generations without any negative impacts on competition, fair housing, or any other pretextual justification. So that's a hard push. Somewhere else in this complaint, they talked about alternatives. Compass demands a jury trial. That's what they're demanding for this. Somewhere in this, I thought I highlighted it, but maybe I just read it. But it talks about the other options. Basically, like, if someone doesn't want to list in the MLS, what are they going to do? Have a sign and radio and TV ads? It's like basically saying there's just not, if how's it stated? If the MLS increases the price, then there's nowhere for other people to go. There's no other solution for them to find. So this shows you that they're monopolist and anti-competitive because there's no other option. If the MLS raises the price, everyone would just pay it. CB_2025_WWJD says, why are we surprised Matt LaMarche is a legend? I wouldn't go that far. All right. Matt is over on LinkedIn as well. Thanks, Matt. Scap sent me a $1.75 million referral, and I got them under contract in 3 days. Wow. See, this is back to you can't stop him. He says, see that not all appraisers are horrible people.
It's true.
Debatable.
It's true. No, it's true. Some. He said some.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen for the other Compass article. If you want to comment on Compass, jump in the comments or just come up and let me know. I think one of the reasons why I think this is interesting is no matter where you stand on clear cooperation, I think people reading this are going to feel for Compass, because we've all been in the position where something that we are forced to bend a knee to suddenly inflicts pain on us, and there's nothing we can do. That's kind of an analogy for the government. I don't know. I think it's going to make a lot of people kind of more sensitive to Compass's case. Actually, I think what they're doing is wrong. I think it gives the icky feels whenever you have somebody that's sitting on the board. That same company then sends recruiting letters after cutting off the IDX feed to Compass. It just sounds more and more like, instead of waging war in the capitalist marketplace, using marketing and using the debate and flow of ideas, that they are trying to do it through force and control. And it doesn't sit well with me. I don't care if you love or hate office exclusives. I don't think this is the remedy.
Back to the big people, the brokers and the associations and the aggregators fighting over all this stuff. All of this is growing, it appears, out of CCP, which in itself feels flawed and should have been fixed in the first place, and might have eliminated all of this. And so now all of a sudden something's growing out of what is really a flawed and misunderstood policy. I mean, it's just getting worse and worse. Instead of where's the solution? Can we come up with some sort of a solution that protects the distribution of information and the agents that are out there working with the consumer?
In my opinion, you have to get rid of clear cooperation.
1,000%, or fix it, but 1,000%.
I don't see how
which is protective of NAR.
I don't see how you fix it. Like, how do you?
Okay, fine, I agree.
So clear cooperation says you can have an office exclusive, but once you list a property, you have to put it in the MLS within 24 hours of listing, so everybody sees it and has access to it. And yet, you can have a private listing network and office exclusive that excludes everyone except people in your brokerage. So now you have all the private listing networks and people are up in arms about it, but yet CCP says this is allowed. They're never going to, because it's been around since past 1971, they're never going to get rid of office exclusives. And even if they did, the enforcement of getting rid of office exclusives is nearly impossible, because people are going to say, well, it's sold, but we were just getting it ready for the market and it's sold. So I think you have to get rid of clear cooperation, because in clear cooperation, you're prohibited from sharing that listing outside of your brokerage, when that's what people want to do. They want to be able to say, hey guys, I have this property coming up. Anyone can show it. It's open to the marketplace and it's available June 12th. That's why can't we do this? Now, some MLSs have coming soon that say, hey, we fixed it with coming soon. I would argue it's not necessarily fixed with coming soon, because you still have to put it out to everyone, and the seller may not want that. They may want a small group of people or a small group of agents to know. They may want 3 brokerages in the area to know it's for sale, because that's who they want to use. That should be okay. It should be the seller's choice. They should sign something that clearly says, this is what I'm choosing. That thing they sign should have the positives and negatives of both options written on them. It's, and then to the best marketer, go get it. If I am, like, Compass isn't even in our market. If they were in our market and someone was like, well, I want to go with Compass because they have private, what are they called? Compass private exclusives. I would say, oh, okay. So you're going to wait on the overpriced product that Compass has? Why would you? They're telling all their sellers that this is the way they could get the highest possible price. So why would you want just overpriced private properties? And I would coin a phrase or come up with a name for Compass's private exclusives that was like overpriced exclusives or something like this. And this would be my like, why would you buy an overpriced exclusive when we have access to properties that may or may not be on the market that are much better prices? How would I get off market properties that are much better prices that I don't currently list? Those are called expired properties. Everyone has access to them, but it's marketing. It's not a legislative fix. So I am for free and open market, which I think is well documented on the program. I want companies to try to run in their best way possible. I'm not for, of course, fair housing violations and things like that happening, but you can't prevent 100% of that from happening. Some of that will happen, and agents have to police themselves. We have to say, hey, this happened. I know this was racism, and here's the text. But agents, for the most part, they don't turn that kind of stuff in. So
I'm with MLS PIN.
Okay.
And we can sign non-MLS. We can sign up a listing, and within 24 hours, we either submit the listing or we submit a non-MLS form, which allows us to get the property ready, or you can't. If you do that, I don't believe you can sell the property without a disclosure from a seller saying that they understood the ramifications of not going to market.
I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. So we get rid of maybe it's the step before getting rid of CCP, which is decouple MLS from NAR.
Yeah.
But then you've got fools like NWMLS.
Yep.
That do that and screw up that argument.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's exactly what I was going to say. It's decoupling. I would like to decouple, but then you have situations like the power-hungry NWMLS. I think the only way to do it is a national MLS and a company that's run by something like, CoStar.
Realtor.com.
CoStar is a great example because they have a national MLS of commercial properties. And it's what everyone uses here locally for commercial. So something like that, where it's just it's a company and people pay to use the company and the company makes money. And if it starts to segregate, or if it starts to be political against one company or another, it loses money. And that loss of money prevents companies like that from doing stupid stuff like that. So that's what I think should happen. But what do I know? I'm just a podcaster.
Is it exclusive if you say it's exclusive, by the way? Like my marketing brand.
I have an exclusive.
My marketing branding brain kind of goes, if it's exclusive, you shouldn't have to say it. There's that one.
There is that.
And I think private exclusive is like a double dip on that. Like we're good. We got it. Yeah. We understand.
Well, exclusive agency means that you can have an exclusive agreement with several agents or brokers. So no, there is no definition to exclusive.
I'm just going to call mine like holy houses, because holy means set apart, right?
It's pocket.
We'll just call it holy
pocket
houses.
Is the word. It's in the pocket or it's out of the pocket.
Pocket exclusive private listings. There you go. Andy Rose joining us from agency. Right? Andy Rose joining us from Facebook says, yo, Andy, you just missed the whole Compass thing. And Andy sent me a lot of that stuff. So, all right. So does NAR hate speech, or does NAR hate speech? NAR hate speech policy is poised for disruption under Texas Senate bill. This is interesting. Senate Bill 2713, first introduced in the Texas Senate March 13th, 2025 by Senator Mays Middleton, which is a Republican from Galveston, proposes the trade organization within the state be prohibited from denying anyone membership into their organization due to race, color, religion, sex, disability, familial status, national origin, or, quote, because of the person's exercise of the person's freedom of speech or assembly, notwithstanding any provision of the association's or organization's bylaws. So we've had this hate speech thing out there, and it's been legislated a couple of times where people have said things that NAR believed they shouldn't, and they were going to lose their membership in NAR, and I think they had to pay fines. One of them just quit real estate altogether. It may be controversial, but I actually think people should say whatever they want. And I kind of hope they would, because let's just go to the extreme. Let's say somebody is, well, we can't go to the extreme because then YouTube will censor it. Let's say someone is a hater of a particular race, and they don't tell me that they're a hater of a particular race, and I use them to purchase and buy several houses. And I never knew that they were a hater of a particular race because they weren't allowed to say it. Let's say in a different world, someone was allowed to say it. And I got on the social media, and I saw this guy putting all kinds of like crazy hate stuff out there. I'm not going to use them to be my real estate agent. But because of NAR's policy, that guy is encouraged to hide his bigoted beliefs and continue to make money off of me when I would rather he not. So I am for free speech and consequences for those free speech being inside of the marketplace rather than forced through a trade organization that's somewhat forced upon that marketplace. Now, if there was a trade organization, you had several different ones out there and a lot of options, then I think you could have the competition among trade organizations where you say, hey guys, we have this code of ethics here and nobody here can, say bad things. And then people could choose to join that. But if they didn't choose to join that, they could still have their own freedom of speech and still operate on whatever MLS they wanted to over here. Then I think you would have an argument where both are okay. And it's just, let the marketplace battle it out and see which one wins. However, we have a situation in which almost all real estate agents are forced to be a part of a particular trade organization to have some kind of success in real estate. And I don't really agree with stifling speech in order to be part of that trade organization. And let's say maybe you are like, well, I don't think anybody should be a realtor who is a hateful bigot. Well, they are. They're just hidden. So they are realtors. You just don't know who they are. And they're successful in business because they're encouraged to hide it as a best practice. Let's switch it around. Let's look at an abortion issue. Let's say you're pro-choice. And let's say that some studies come out and show that actually, you know what? Pro-choice has a larger impact on minorities. And what you said in that tweet about you being pro-choice could be construed that you are for the eradication of a race, because the way you said that, the way it was tweeted, made me think that you're against that race because you are pro-choice. Now, whether you meant to or not, no longer matters, because perception is reality. It does not mean what you meant was wrong. It doesn't even mean what you texted was wrong. None of that matters. And was it defined specifically as hate speech? That also doesn't matter, because in the NAR rule, it doesn't say it has to be hate. It says harassing speech. So now you just thought you were being pro-choice, but instead you're a racist bigot who's losing your livelihood. Should that be allowed? Should you be in court arguing this? I would say probably no. Anything out there that's like this, if you turn it on its head or if you turn it upside down, or you turn it opposite of what you believe, and you no longer think that that should be an issue, then maybe it shouldn't be an issue, period. So I would say parsing the words of a realtor to figure out whether or not they have hate speech goes beyond the First Amendment, the forced membership into NAR does something to real estate agents. It's a little bit different. But I think you should be allowed what Andy says. Andy goes, we all have our prejudices, but most of us don't allow it to affect our business. Basically, don't be an a-hole. Yeah. If it's not, you could argue, well, that tweet that I sent, that had nothing to do with helping people buy and sell a home. And you would be correct, but that doesn't matter with standard and practice 10-5. That no longer matters. It's not about the practice of real estate. It's not about you doing the job that is why you're a part of that trade organization. It is just you as a person having a view that they don't agree with and can construe as harassing speech or hate speech, epithets, slurs based on race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. So let's hit a topic that's a little more closer to home. Maybe you don't think trans athletes should be in sports with girls. Is that hate speech? No? Is that harassing speech? No? You thought you were supporting women. Could you lose your license for this? Yes. So I think they should get rid of standard and practice 10-5. And I hope more states follow suit, because I want to know what you believe as a real estate agent before I send you a referral. I would love to be able to go to your social media and see who you really are. And if I can't, that's annoying to me. So I'll get off my soapbox. We have to go really fast. I mean, we've been in depth today. Do y'all like the deep dives? I kind of like the deep dives, but it also doesn't leave much room to cover economic stuff. Drop in the comments if you like the deep dive. If you don't like the deep dive, I also want to know. And if you're commenting over on Clubhouse, I could see it. I just can't really call it out because it's a lot. So hey, okay. Let's look at this next article. This lady reminds me of somebody. Ariane Gorin is the CEO of Expedia, and I guess they own Vrbo, and then Airbnb is the other guy, Brian Chesky. So y'all know the ad with Nick Saban. Let's see if we can play it. You know the ad with Nick Saban? I don't know if I can hear this. You'll probably can't hear it. I'm going to reshare it so I can add the volume. Okay. All right, here we are. Resharing. So now we have volume on it. You might remember this ad where this couple comes up to Nick Saban's house. He's like, check-in's at 3. And the guy's like, it's 2:55. And Nick's like, I know. And he just drinks coffee. He tells him to have a seat. He goes over all the rules. He's mowing the lawn while they're trying to enjoy some tea outside. He's in the hot tub with them at the end of the film. And it's a funny series of commercials. I mean, it's kind of clever. VRBO released a commercial that portrayed Saban as a strict host on a short-term rental, one who made sure that guests knew there were no games, no fun policies. And then it says, when other vacation rentals make you share your turf with a host, try one you have all to yourself, the narrator says. Probably a better job of doing that than me. Jack, I see your all Marblehead Instagram says deep dive check. Okay, good. The ad seems to poke fun at Airbnb. Now, it doesn't say Airbnb in the ad, but that's how Airbnb got their start. You remember the couch surfing back in the day. Airbnb does offer host-free rental options. It says now, but back in the day it didn't. So because Airbnb does offer host-free rental options, NAD concluded that the message is unsupported and recommended that VRBO discontinue the challenged host-free claim or modify it to avoid conveying the message that competitors such as Airbnb always have hosts that cohabitate with guests during their stay. So I disagree on NAD's feedback on this. If there's a company out there that says this portrays that we do this, but they don't do that, and it doesn't say what the other company is, then if I was VRBO, I'd be like, well, we're not talking about you then. We're talking about other companies that do. And it's like, well, we can't find another company that does. Well, great. Then it's a fictional made up other company. But I just think it was such a small, I think more attention now is being brought to it than there was because of the whole lawsuit. That if they would have just left it alone, I think everyone knows, like you order an Airbnb and it's basically the same list as VRBO. One Airbnb will list your entire stay price. VRBO lists the per night price. That's the difference. All of the same crap is on the same website. Everyone knows this. I think this is a dumb lawsuit. But there you go. The NAD weighs in. Oh, I know who she reminds me of. Oh, this is slightly offensive. Y'all know the Prancer size lady? That's who she reminds me of. Hang on.
Hello, I'm Joanna Rohrbeck.
There you go.
Prancer Size LLC, and I'm here today.
All right, I'm not going to play the whole
show
thing because I don't want to get discontinued by YouTube. But for some reason, she reminds me of Prancer Size Lady. That's what it was. That's so funny. All right, back on her. There she is. Does it look like she's Prancer size and like maybe it's her side hustle? Oh, sorry. All right, let's get into some economic news and away from Prancer size completely. Homebuyer mortgage demand drops further as economic uncertainty roils the housing market. So this is going to really feel like a tale of two cities. I'm going to highlight several of these articles and you guys can kind of decide where we are. But applications for a mortgage to purchase a home dropped 4% last week compared with the previous week. This was on April 24th. No, this is the release to April 30th. Okay, the photo was April 24th. Sorry. Applications for mortgage to purchase a home dropped 4% last week compared with the previous week, according to Mortgage Bankers Association. Mortgage application activity, particularly for home purchases, continues to be subdued by broader economic uncertainty as signs of a labor market weakness, dropping to the slowest pace since February, said Joel Kahn, Vice President and Deputy Chief Economist of the Mortgage Bankers Association. Our next story. Typical home seller wants $39,000 more than typical buyer is willing to pay. That's an interesting stat you can share with your clients. This is based on the listing sale price data in March. The typical home that sold last month fetched $431,000, below the June 2024 record of $442,000, but it was listed at $469,000. So there you go. It's a $39,000 price difference from what people want and where homes are listed. Home price momentum slows. This article is from Realtor.com. Only one city in the index posted an annual price decline was Tampa, Florida, where home prices dropped 1.5% a year ago. So that's interesting. It says home price momentum slows as prices are falling in one Florida city. So the headline, home price momentum slows, that's another way of saying home price gains slow. Home prices are still going up. They're just going up at a lower pace. All right, I don't want to share the spoiler. March home sales dropped to their lowest pace since 2009. Ooh, looks really bad. Sales of previously owned homes in March fell 5.9% from February to 4.02 million units. Sales were 2.4% lower in March 2024 than in March 2024, slumped all across all regions month to month. This is sounding really bad, right? Home prices are falling. 11 of the 50 most populous U.S. metros in the most in 19 months. So the median home sale price declined year over year in 11 of the 50 most populous U.S. metros. The last time home prices dropped in that many metros was over a year and a half ago, September 2023. Sounds like it's going to be like this during the fall of 2008. No, it was just September 2023. All right. Mortgage rates ease as economic data flashes recession warning. Dun, dun, dun. Mortgage rates are on a retreat this week as the latest data on the economy shows investors who fund most home loans are worried about tariffs will not only fuel inflation, but instead lead to recession. It doesn't mention things like the low prices of energy and all that stuff happening. This is just basically focused on the uncertainty. So Dallas is making a bold move to try to fix the housing crisis by targeting home buyers in the $50,000 to $60,000 per year income range, allowing multifamily properties. This, of course, will be abused on resale, and and these will become really cool parts of Dallas that are really high end eventually. But right now, they're going to make them it's called the missing middle. The small scale multifamily units that fall between single family home and an apartment. They offer a gentle form of density, affordable and fast to construct, neighbor friendly, and well suited for walkable urban neighborhoods. We'll see what happens. It's been tried in other parts of the country, but they're trying to keep it from being an area where people who work in the city can't live in the city. They have to live outside of the city and commute to it, like some places in California, but I just don't think you can avoid that kind of thing. I mean, if you have a really popular city, it's going to happen. Okay. Monthly mortgage payments are falling in 12 of the 50 most populous U.S. metros. Huh. Is it what? Homes are getting cheaper? Monthly housing payments are falling in 12 U.S. metros. Jacksonville, Florida, San Francisco, Oakland, West Palm Beach, Austin, Portland, Dallas, Seattle, Tampa, Denver, Nashville, and Orlando. Monthly mortgage payments fell from a year earlier in those 12 places, mainly because mortgage rates declined and home and local home sales prices either declined or stayed flat. Okay. Let's look at what Realtor has to say. The inventory dilemma, why existing home sales are falling short. Existing home sales have lagged over the past 2 years while home sales have surged, highlighting a key dynamic. Buyer demand remains strong when inventory is available. The existing home market continues to face a short supply of homes for sale despite the latest progress of a 20% annual uptick in inventory. That feels significant. With just 4 months of supply and inventory, existing home sales fell nearly 6% in March compared to February. Sales were down 2.4% from a year ago. So basically what the National Association of Realtors is saying, like, hey, these slow sales are because we need more inventory. We only have 4 months of inventory and supply, and it's not enough. Goodness, I hit my cough button. Okay. Lawrence Yun, NAR's chief economist, says as time passes, life events such as job changes, family transitions, financial needs could prompt more homeowners to sell. As it stands now, about 44 million homeowners have a mortgage rate below 6%. Woo. That's lower than the current 30-year fixed rate. Buyers with financial wherewithal are bypassing mortgages altogether. All cash buyers continue to make up a sizable portion of the market. We actually have a couple of all cash buyers, and one of them is coming to us from Canada this week, by the way. Isn't that well? I have to thank Olivier for my Canadian market update. All right. So what does all this point to? The coming buildup of buyers. Contract signings for home sales jumped in March, which could indicate the reversal of slowing of many markets have experienced this spring. Pending home sales, a forward-looking indicator of home sales based on contract signings, climbed 6.1% in March compared to February. The National Association of Realtors reported Wednesday. Let's see, the news on contract signings falls on the heels of the latest existing home sales numbers, down nearly 6% in March compared to February. The rise in pending home sales could hint to a turnaround, says Lauren Shune. So we had all this negative, and then boom, pending home sales climbed 6.1%. Analysts were saying that pending home sales would only climb 1%. So this is 1.1% better. The _ Stone Cold Realtor says, hey, my favorite. Hey, what's going on? Thanks for joining over on the gram. All right. Yeah, we've already covered the pending home sales jump. There is a good graphic here. This would be a good graphic to use as a background on your stories. Housing snapshot, pending home sales, March 2025. This is a huge question people are asking me right now. Are people buying houses? So if you could show that the pending home sales just ticked up 6% in March, yeah, people are still buying houses. All right, last story of the day. Houston friends, where are you at? Have you heard of the Darth Vader House? The Darth Vader House sold for $3.4 million, and they are now trying to rebrand it. And no, it is not because of a Disney copyright. Which, I mean, I guess it could be, but it's not. The new buyer is Enrique Cabrera. He's a Mexican sculptor, and he sculpts bulls. We'll look at it in a second, but he's going to call it the Black Bull House. I think, isn't that Black Bull? Let me see what he's. I think it's going to be called the Black Bull House. Yeah, there it is. The Black Bull House. Now, this comes from his art. So if you look at his art, you could see these bulls that he has, these geometrically shaped bulls. And this, I think this could work. At first, when they said an artist bought it and is going to put a bull sculpture out front and rename it the Black Bull House, I thought, nah. That's not going to work. The previous owner is like, oh, it's always going to be the Darth Vader house. But if he got with an architect and he took this house and made some adjustments to the house that made it look even more kind of geometrically shaped and shaped that bull towards the front of the home, I think he could get away with it. If you look on the inside of the house, it is very white and black, like the Empire, but it's very geometric. I mean, it's got lots of lines, which kind of suits this guy's art. If you look at the floor, all these triangle shapes and everything, I mean, if you go back, I think this could actually work. So I'm curious to see what this guy's going to do with it. If any of you are in the area, if you look at the bedrooms, those are kind of like normal looking bedrooms. If you're in the area, I would love sometime to get a tour. I guess it's not on the market anymore, but I don't know. Maybe you know Enrique. But I mean, you know he's going to fill this with some kind of sculpture. But if he got with an architect and put something out front that finished the lines of the property to make it look like part of the bull sculpture, I think that would be rad. And I would not, at that moment, I am a Star Wars fan. At that moment, I would not mind renaming it the Black Bull House. But as it is, I mean, that photo alone is so Darth Vader. I don't know. It's hard to say. All right, that's all the news for the day. Woo, that was a lot. Deep dive into Compass, deep dive into hate speech. I'm just for freedom. I want free markets to work. I want freedom. I want the Prancer size lady. Memphis Living with Shanita says, I'm here for the deep dive. Good. Awesome. Good. Annie Rose says, ethics also say we're supposed to work with fellow realtors. But but nobody wants to talk about that. I mean, it does also say not to talk about another brokerage's business model. And that's out the window. All right, well, thanks everyone for joining. What's up, Razorback King? I will see you guys next week. I'm going right now to 2 lake houses, luxury lake houses, Airbnb stuff to check out. If you guys want to see early, check my stories. Peep the stories. All right. That's all I got. Find me on Instagram, Razorback, RAYZORBACK. Bye, everybody.